0.8% or so ridership shortfall, but we're going to have to keep an eye on that. Another element in ridership that I found interesting was the Metro Now service it went up because of the number of days in March, but in terms of average weekday, it has leveled off. So we'll have to see whether that maintains or if that was just a 1 month variation. We did have missed trips and OTP that continue to be a concern. And of significant note is that we went down fixed route operators. This was due to a lower than normal recruiting class through the winter months. And we actually have larger classes coming in, but you can't make that up. So we have to really push for
smaller
more
class or
operators.
smaller number of people that finish the class? They're both.
I think it's a smaller class, but yep, okay. So that's what's going on there. Okay. We did have a couple procurement items there on the consent agenda. One is around fluids and software to maintain and track fluids for vehicles. It's a sole source award because we already use the service Fleet Watch on other vehicles. The other is for the first responder network. So this is communicating with our buses when they're out on the field. This is usually the same thing as ambulances, fire, EMS. So it's a strong network. We did discuss AT&T as the provider because they've had some problems and questions were brought up about that. This is a separate network than the public AT&T network. And it is nice because it's 5 years and it is a stable rate. So it does not go up over the next 5 years. So that seems like a good advantage. I would move that we approve both of these items on the consent agenda, but we can take them off, discuss them if anybody has questions.
Just one.
Yep.
Does for the first responder,
Mhm.
that an increase from the previous contract? I know it's not going to change for 5 years. Did that increase for this contract?
That is the current rate that we've been paying, and it's level for the next 5 years.
And Fleet Watch, believe it or not, was, I think, 20,000 below budget. So not a lot of controversy on these two.
There you go. And hey, remember to speak into the mic and turn the mic on. I know Brad's over here freaking out. So.
I'm the worst about that. Sorry.
At least it's on. You tried.
Yeah,
So you moved.
I did.
Did anybody second? All right. Properly moved and seconded. Comments, questions, concerns?
Mr. Bryce?
Yes.
Mr. Etheridge?
Yes.
Mr. Driehaus?
Yes.
Mr. Hinton?
Yes.
Mr. Cassie?
Yes.
Mr. Metz?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Moss? Mrs. Moss? Sorry, Mrs. Moss? Miss Robinson? Yes. Miss Sheets? Yes. And Mr. Smith?
I don't know what we're voting on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. You can abstain if you want. We got it passed anyway. That's right.
Well, you were here for the committee meeting.
Yes.
So one question I would have for you, bro. You talked about Metro Now, and I think we have 4 more coming out. And remind me of the timing of when that's happening.
We'll attempt the end of this year, based on when the vehicles get here, to roll 1 more out this year, and then at least 1 more next year, maybe 2 more next
Okay,
year.
because that's part of the
Yes.
witness we're having too. And I know I've
Also operators, right? So we have to have both vehicles and the operators.
And I should mention, although we were below our budget, we're above last year.
we have high expectations, Joe.
Yes. Let's do it.
All right. Any other questions for Blake? No? Okay. I guess we had no other committee meetings, so Andy's going to take us through the finances.
Vote. Did you vote? They did vote.
We did vote. Yeah. Right,
Great.
because Pastor Smith wasn't sure what he was voting on, too.
Y'all might have been voting for me to do something.
I know, exactly. You missed that was earlier. That's
All right, happy to provide overview of the March financial report. If we turn to page 4, we have a chance to look at our revenues through the first quarter of the year. You'll see in the detailed P&L that we're very close to budget in terms of total passenger revenue, despite the fact that we're a little behind budget in ridership. We've talked about that at length in committee. Some of that is due to timing of pass purchases. We have a lot of agencies and school districts that purchase passes at the beginning of the calendar year, but use of those passes, lag on over the course of months. So there's not always a one-to-one between passenger revenue and ridership. And as was mentioned before, we have less service on the street than we had planned per budget. When we turn to page 5, we look at expense. Our expense profile is pretty similar. You'll see a little uptick in fuel for the month. We're a little ahead of budget in terms of fuel expenses for the month, but you'll see in the detailed P&L that we're under budget for year to date. On the next page, we look at the summary P&L. We walked through this briefly in committee. Total revenue, $14.1 million, which was favorable to budget by about $500,000. Total expenses, $13 million, which was favorable by $670,000. We ended the month with a monthly surplus of $1.1 million, which is favorable to budget by $1.165 million. So you'll see on the next page that we had projected a deficit for March. We had talked about in 2024 for the calendar, we had projected a surplus for the year, but given the timing of expenses and the timing of sales tax revenue, that there are months where we were projecting deficits with a net positive at the end of the year. If we go back to page 6 in the summary, we noted that total ridership was 1.1 million, which was unfavorable by about 4.8%. On the revenue side, operating revenue favorable to budget by about 5%. Non-transportation revenue was favorable by $419,000 or 53%. That is the timing of investment income. Again, as discussed in committee, our investments in our portfolio don't all mature and pay on a monthly basis. Some of those pay quarterly, some pay biannually. So there's some timing variation in terms of how we're receiving revenue in our investment portfolio. It was favorable this month. County sales tax, as we've talked about, is per the budget until we receive January actuals in April. So in the April financial statement, we'll reflect what we actually received in January, and we'll have that discussion in the Finance Committee meeting. Federal grants were on budget. Expenses, wage and benefits were positive, favorable to the budget by 1.9%. Fuel and lube, unfavorable slightly, as we mentioned, 6.3% for the month, but we are ahead of budget, favorable for the year.
Can I ask a question there?
Yes, sir.
So we have less service on the street, so we were using less gallons, I assume, than we expected to, and we were over 90% hedged on what we expected to happen. So I'm a little...
Yes, so we can have a unfavorable experience in our financial statement with the expense of the actual gasoline that we purchase, and then we have an offsetting favorable expense on our hedge.
But this is not net the way it's shown here.
This is net in terms of the cost category, but the timing of those things aren't exactly the same.
Okay.
We can dig deeper in that if you'd like.
No, I would like us to be more hedged than we were because the market's going back the wrong way on it. But anyway, I just like to dig at it every month.
Craig's next career is as a fuel hedger.
I guess I want to ask, is there another way to explain that or present that?
It shows up in the hedging report. I mean, I think it's those multiple things together, and it's not such a huge item. I don't mean to always belabor it, but I think it's something that can get away from us if we're not careful.
Because it's part of the summary, I'm just wondering, is there?
Yeah, we present a fuel hedging report, Finance Committee, on a quarterly basis where we kind of dig into that in detail. Yep.
I missed it this month, so I like to.
The consequences of not being well hedged are significant, so it's important to continue.
No, I think so, and I know that because my argument with those guys is like once you have some certainty and it fits in your budget, I would go longer per our policy. I know they've been careful because they thought it couldn't go up too much more. You know, there's war in the Middle East. There's all sorts of things happening. So I'd like us to pay attention to it.
Yep. With respect to... Nope, sorry.
Okay.
Other questions on that point? With respect to parts and supplies, again, slightly unfavorable for the month, but favorable for year to date. We had a large tire order that came through this month that was driving unfavorability in parts and supplies. But again, we're on budget, below budget year to date. All other is favorable, mostly due to timing of outside services that often catches up as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year. Detailed P&L, I won't go into every line here on page 7, but what you see is the projected deficit for the month of 55,000 and the actual result of a positive 1.1 million surplus for the month. And you can see year to date, we're carrying a $2.1 million surplus where we had budgeted to be about $800,000 under year to date. Happy to take any questions on the financial statement.
Large tire order. Don't we lease?
We do. And with our hybrid buses, we had they take a special kind of tire, so the timing of all that came through in this month. We had 10 hybrids that went into service. They needed, I might be speaking a little bit out of school here with my vehicle experts here. I don't know, John, if you want to speak to that, but it's a timing
They're
of.
a lot heavier, so they take a different tire.
Bus, heavier batteries, higher rate tire, bringing those on time. Like Andy said, March rollout of service in the March.
Okay.
We're able to get them ready for the training sensor on the road this week.
Yep.
That's all.
That's right. Well, for Earth Day, right? That's right.
That's right.
Yes.
I know that a lot of groups have been getting into the sort of bring workers back downtown, into the chambers, meet me downtown, all that. Are we seeing any results from that would show up in the bus ridership numbers? Do we know?
I believe that's one of the reasons that we're so far ahead of the rest of the country, is because more people are coming back to work in the downtown in Cincinnati than in other places, as well as our marketing efforts. And again, we are ahead of last year in ridership, even though we didn't roll out new service.
Yeah.
I think that all molds into where we are today.
I don't have much to add to that. My colleague Amy runs that program. I'd be happy to get some updates from her and see if there's some.
The more we can tie together
Yeah.
with that stuff, right?
Yeah.
I know we were talking for a while about you don't want to pay for monthly parking if you're not coming down all the time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was maybe helping us then, and maybe it's hurting us now if people are coming more. But
But we're also
I'll-
seeing
okay.
like significant increases in ridership on the weekend days.
yeah,
And I think that's influencing some of it as well. And I find that fascinating. It's good. It's a good thing.
I mean, anecdotally, every bus I've been on a Saturday has been at least half full or more.
Yeah.
The last couple times I've been on the bus on the weekend, it's really impressive.
awesome.
All right, I'd like to thank you all for doing Metro on the Move for me.
That's why you like to go last.
That's
it.
exactly right. We rolled out 10 hybrid buses. I'm really excited about that. And we rolled them out on Earth Day. The FTA did come to town to talk about some of the changes in the regulations on safety and security for both our passengers and our operators. But they also asked to get a tour of the BRT corridor. And Councilman Reggie Harris also joined us on that tour, and we got a chance to show them how we are all in the same boat rowing together with connected communities as well as BRT. They were very impressed with the tour, so I know that will pay dividends. I'm also extremely proud to say that we've been named Transit System of the Year by ODOT, the Ohio Department of Transportation. Due in large part to our procurement department. John is here. I don't know if Tara is, for the work they've done and this board has done. I want to call Gwen out on this for our inclusion and what we've done in our procurement inclusion, but we're really proud to be named System of the Year. Our marketing department won 2 Addy Awards from the American Advertising Association for our Get Up and Go marketing campaign. And I'm not sure if you all know, we helped the NAACP design their Your Voice is Your Vote vehicle. So we won an Addy for that vehicle as well. May is Bike to Work Month, and on May 17th, any person utilizing our bike rack will be able to ride the bus for free on May 17th. And that is Metro on the Move, unless you all have questions.
I just want to really applaud the marketing group, Brandy. I told her she always put on a good party. The press conference went very well. I mean, even if it was off script, I mean, at first I thought they were gonna talk about the express, system, but they, with the safety, and that's okay, because we were already there anyway. But the number of board members that showed up, that was impressive as well. And then I want to thank, I really want to thank Metro for allowing, members of the senior staff and Andy, and myself to attend the, empowerment, women empowerment luncheon. And it was really impressive to see the entourage of women that are in senior levels here in our system. And so we need to be proud of what we're doing internally as it reflects to women in the roles. So thank you.
I also think I can't remember the name of the business courier event you spoke at, the state of the region or the growth of the region or.
It was about economic development.
Yeah.
That was very, very, very interesting, and Blake spent a little time talking about it in the Planning
sorry,
and Ops
okay.
Committee
So-
meeting. Blake, if you want to,
I was
because I'll
part
stay
of it
away
here.
from
Just
it.
one meeting.
Well, I love the event because it was about economic development and it was dominated, in my opinion, by discussion of transit. And in fact, people kept trying to move it away and it came back because of the way transit is connecting communities and the connections to everything that's going on that our system does. And our CEO's very strong personality.
Rock star.
And rock star, I think is the right word. Yes. So good job. And the whole team who set him up for that.
And it's interesting because I wasn't there. I talked to a few people that were there and just saying how they, they've been hearing these stories, but not always paying attention. And so just, the dialogue, I know, Glenn, you and I say this all the time, the dialogue versus 10 years ago was just amazing, right? And so thanks everybody for that, and thanks for leadership on that. And it's exciting, and we really are tied to what's happening going forward. Since you mentioned biking, do you want to talk about the Oasis Trail, or is it too soon to?
This is extremely, extremely, extremely good news. This board, years ago, asked us to help get the Oasis Trail done. I am happy to say that IORI, SORTA, the City of Cincinnati, and Great Parks have agreed. We are all signing the agreement with IORI. As we speak, that is going around. We've also come to an agreement on the three-party agreement, the city, SORTA, and Great Parks. So the bike trail is going to get built.
That was a long time ago.
And if I could, I want to mention John Brazina, because there were times that I wasn't even sure if we were going to get this done. And John Brazina really, really, really worked really hard from the city and kept pushing and kept pushing and kept pushing until he got this done. So he gets a lot of credit for helping us get this across the finish line.
Yeah, I think I remember. This is the path leading from the boathouse, basically,
To Lunkin.
east and
The Lunkin Airport.
Yeah. There you go. And you can take the bus and the bike.
Issue, maybe Sarah know more about it. That whole bike stuff on Hamilton Avenue, the bike, they got the biking and they got how they doing,
The lanes.
all of that. It's really a mess going down Hamilton Avenue now. And so they're having a meeting tonight to discuss it. But one of our bus drivers was on the radio, and he said that it's hard on the buses because they're not up to the curb and people have to walk out into the street to get on the buses. So, yeah, I don't know if we're part of those discussions or not, but where they're putting those bike
Bike lanes, bike separators, yeah.
And I'm trying to think, whatever that triangle piece that they stick out in the street.
Oh,
That's-
like the bump outs.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like a temporary
bump out,
bump
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And that's what's stopping the buses from being able to pick up our passengers.
Yeah.
In theory, they're
Well-
supposed to pull over, let the people on, and then come back out into the.
Well, if you come back out, you got a lane of traffic over here.
Yeah.
And,
Well, since BRT is going down there, we'll be very involved. in the
Yeah, that
discussions.
corridor will change dramatically over this. On the railroad piece, I was in some of these meetings over the last years, and this is really, this should have fallen apart at any point over the last 3 or 4 years, and it's only because all three public agencies were not willing to let it fall apart. I mean, totally agree, credit to John Brazina. credit to the team here at Metro who said we have clear direction from our board and this is what we're going to do. Same thing is true to Todd Palmeter and his team at Great Parks, who has said we'll take this thing on and manage it. So like, congratulations, thank you, and thanks to all those partners, because many other agencies in similar situations would have said this is too hard, let's move on, and that didn't happen. So thank you all.
And I don't want to, throw cold water on a party, but there are still a few more hurdles. This is a huge milestone, having all the public parties and the railroad agree. We still have a couple more regulatory hoops to jump through, and we'll keep you apprised of all of that. But I do think, the hardest thing is getting these four disparate organizations with 4 different missions to agree. We're there. Huge accomplishment, but we still do have some significant regulatory and, approvals and steps.
Absolutely. I didn't mean to get ahead of you. I just thought there's some good things are happening. I like us to hear about it before you hear about it some other way, right? So don't start commuting that way quite yet, right? Okay. Yeah, after this, that's where we're heading after this meeting. So those are my questions. Anybody else? Any new business? I feel like this meeting went. I know Dan has to get to the Reds game, so he's trying to hustle us along.
That's right. What is the timing on the Oasis? What would the timing be when you get through the next?
So where we are right now is we have public parties and IORI, the railroad, to agree to the terms, in terms of how this trail would be built and operated and owned and all those good things. The right-of-way, currently owned by SORTA, funded by the federal government, we have to work with FTA to ask them to allow us to transfer that right-of-way to the city of Cincinnati. They may or may not allow us to do that. So we have to work through that regulatory approval process. What we have been told by the FTA is that they will work with us. There's no certainty that they will approve that transfer, and there's no definite timeline upon which they will approve that transfer. So we're working at the speed of the federal government, and we will wait for they've been very responsive thus far. They've given us great technical advice and communication, but we don't know what their timeline is. Once we do know, this is part of a larger project that Khaled and his team are managing about disposition of all of our right-of-way, right? So we have months probably of discussion with FTA before we'll know where they stand on this one segment. Then we have 25 other miles.
And depending on their answer, it doesn't mean it's dead. It just means the other funding vehicles may have to be pursued. So I think getting the railroad and the public agencies together was a huge step.
So Andy, the precedent we talked about the other day, is this now the precedent that was set for the city or not? Is this different than that?
So
it depends what they tell us.
It depends what they tell us. We're waiting for FTA to let us know that our request, that they will accept our request to transfer this right of way to another public entity. This is a allowable disposition method by the FTA. They have 7 different methods. This is one that we're requesting. It requires approval by the FTA. It has to meet certain criteria. We believe that we meet that criteria. If so, we can take that, what's the word I'm looking for, that rubric or that framework and apply it to other applicable similar pieces of property if requested, if necessary. We're going to learn a lot by going through this segment. This is the largest segment. It's the highest profile segment. We're taking it first. We'll see what FTA says.
I think it's worth having a formal request if you have, right?
Yeah, and we've had
There are
other
going to be a lot
requests
of other
from
requests coming, as you know.
Correct.
So this 5-mile stretch, having this be the precedent, and the timing on this is a matter of a few months, perhaps.
At the
of our
speed
hands.
at the speed of the FTA.
Right.
And once all of that is done, they still have to go get funding to actually build the bicycle path.
I believe, and Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, with the agreement signed, the other parties could choose to apply for federal funding for the trail because the transfer is a matter of dollars, not a matter of ownership. Because with the agreement signed, there is ownership and control of the real estate to be able to apply for grant funding. That whether or not they choose to do that would be up to Great Parks, but having the agreement signed allows them to proceed for a grant application if they wanted to.
You are correct.
So those things don't have to, one ends and then the other one picks up.
You are correct.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? No? Going once, going twice? All right, go Reds.